Hi, folks. I'm Abasa, and I'm here with the one and only Metakovan. And welcome to CryptoArt Week Asia. We're here just to have a quick talk about, I guess, his background and some things you don't know about him, and perhaps what he's been up to and what he's got cooking for the future. So, how you doing, Metakovan?
Great. I'm doing quite well.
Good.
Thank you.
First off, so you have this, the real you, and then you have the persona, Metakovan. Which, which do you like to be referred as, and why? What's up with that?
I think it's just context, right? So these days it's more like people who know me, met me in person, usually call me Vignesh. But a lot of people still, like to call me Metakovan. And
Right.
some people are like, "Why did you show your face?" I would have loved to, refer to you as Metakovan, and now it's hard, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
there's everything, a little bit of everything. So I just let people it's perfectly all right. It can be Metakovan or Vignesh, but I think definitely there is a huge difference between Vignesh and Metakovan.
Yeah, what's the difference? What do you mean?
Hmm. Um, like the most generic way I could put it is, like Vignesh was born poor, Metakovan was born rich. So
Okay, that's cool. That's a good way to put it. So
yeah.
I guess, well, then take us up to Metakovan. Vignesh, like
Mhm.
you said you were born poor. I'm sure you've gone through this a lot, but maybe if you can give us a quick intro to Vignesh and how you became Metakovan.
Sure. I think the shortest would be, I was I was like born in India and mostly grew up in India. Um, but but my major uh, influence was tech entrepreneurship. So initially I started learning coding when I was 6. Like just playing around and stuff. But by my undergrad, um, I really wanted that to help me, like have some pocket money or anything, right? Like
Right.
I had to do that. So by that time, I got a little more serious, and the exposure radically increased when I was in undergrad because I'd studied in Dubai for a while.
Mm,
So Dubai kind of, gave that impetus of understanding, oh, this is how the world works and how quickly the world is changing in terms of tech. So, and I made this decision that I would never, like do like a outsourcing project. So, like usually when you look at India and some person from India, right? Like you always look at him as a technical person,
that's true.
but I wanted to be a CEO, right? Like run something, not just be the technical person. So it's the difference between capitalist and the labor, right? Same thing.
Right.
It's historic, and yeah. So that was my vibe all the time. So people used to offer me like build this website for me, build this website for me, but I will be like, no, if I build a website, that's for me, right?
Right.
And so I started building services website, and that's how I started. And I built around 52 websites before any of them really took off. I
Wow.
used to make a little money here, there, but Bitcoin and crypto was my first real break because it had an international market.
Wow. When did you first hear about Bitcoin and crypto?
Mm, Not as early as you, 2013.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there was a big boom period around then.
Yeah,
Who was
yeah.
it that introduced you to it? Who gave you your first Bitcoin, and how'd that start?
Actually, that discovery is also very interesting because I had no one in my network who knew Bitcoin. So um, I, I I was googling something, like how do I transfer money from a brokerage to a brokerage or something like that, because I was trying to option trade, and I was
Right.
so interested in those areas. I didn't have so much money, but like $200, $300, but I wanted to move it around to from one broker to another, right?
Right.
So and I mis like by mistake Googled how do I move money through internet or something, right? And then I believe like Bitcoin showed up,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, what's this? And when there's a new technology, I'm like, okay, let's do something,
Right.
right? Because it's 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 like the blue ocean. It's not competitive. That's the only reason why I like to try new things, because at least we get some exposure, right?
Right.
And visibility. So, but if we go on a red ocean, definitely I'm not going to get the visibility. So
Right.
I try to choose new technologies and try to do something. Maybe if it works out, I would continue, or I would move on to something else.
Right. Right. If anything, it's a good experience after all, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
Right. Okay. So you have what, these 52 websites that you create, and you're involved in. you should have a Metakovan 52 days or something based based off of this website. Um, but and then maybe get into how you met Tubador. How'd that come about?
Definitely. So while I had met Tubadur, a lot of people I work with today, I've met them long time ago in my life. Um, One of the examples is Tubadur, right? Like Tubadur, I met him before I knew about Bitcoin, and we used to work in a.
Mhm.
I I I used to consult for a big national newspaper in India,
Mhm.
and so tech consultancy, right? So I would want to help them with, say, making an app or a Facebook app, or those kind of stuff. And that's where I met Tubadur. He was a journalist, and he was actively involved in like pushing content from the publication. And I was really bad at writing, so I used to be like, you write well, so right. And that's how we first got introduced. But after that, 2013, I I moved on to Bitcoin and started working on it for a few years, and then it took me like 3-4 years to reacquaint with Tubador, and
Mhm.
that's when we started working on the crypto journeys together.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. Okay, so you make your money in Bitcoin, or well, in cryptocurrencies, and then you reconnect with Tubador, and then what do you guys do together?
I actually reconnected with a bunch of people. So people who I grew up with, I went to school with, and I always thought it'd be really interesting to like have a group of people who I can trust
Right.
and who I can work with. So one of the hardest part about being an entrepreneur is that you need to have a network, right? Like these things are like not, how do you say, like we ask everyone to be an entrepreneur, but there is so many other things that has to work out.
Yeah.
If some
That's true.
one person, you need a village, right?
It's
Like
true.
they
Yeah.
say, even to grow a child, you need a village, right? So in the same way, I think entrepreneurship is an ecosystem thing. So I got so um, almost irritated by not the lack of it in 2013-14,
Mhm.
because you know end of the day, the problem is there is still this notion of who do I know, right?
Right.
And who do they know?
Right.
So if I go to North America, the best thing I could do, it's to work with someone. And it's very hard to start something because network, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Lawyers, accountants, who do I trust to take money from? So this is all, uh so many potholes, and you could totally fall into it, and sometimes actually lose your life also, right? Like
Yeah. Yep.
mistakes.
Yep.
So that's very scary. So for a couple of years, I was working on BitAccess, which was a Bitcoin ATM company based out of Canada.
Mhm.
So after Dubai, I moved back to India, and then I applied for masters in Canada, and then moved there. Still wasn't didn't have a lot of money, but I wanted to see if I can create, like, be part of a team, because I was really lacking that part. And
Mhm.
then once I came to Canada, I got this exposure into being part of a team from North America, and then that team took me to YC, right? So I
Mhm.
got all this exposure, and all this time. going through Y Combinator, all I was thinking was, it'd be awesome, if I could do this with my friends, right?
Yeah.
And people I really trust and stuff. It's so so 2016, I decide, okay, like I've worked on the ATM stuff enough, so let me start, pulling together the group of people I would really like to work with, and that's how I reconnected with Troubadour.
Wow. And you guys reconnected, and what did you do? What was the first thing that you guys did together?
So we started in. Uh, so I've done um, various things in the crypto space. So one of the important things is I've written various DeFi research papers.
Okay.
So we run a protocol called Lendroid,
Yeah.
and it is a foundation based out of Singapore, and we do DeFi research, and also ways to connect NFTs with governance and NFTs with DeFi, etc. Right.
Wow.
So there is this division, or this whole thing that's going on for a while now, and I'm so excited about DeFi in general,
Oh yeah.
but also I'm deep rooted in writing white papers and stuff.
Right. Okay, I see. So that's now, or that's 2016? That's generally now, you mean?
And that's still now, because it's
Okay.
an active industry. DeFi
Right.
is DeFi has not gotten there, right? So I think most of the time Vignesh spends time on DeFi. Metakovan spends time on NFT.
Yeah, I love it. All right. So just to rewind just a little bit. So you link up with Tupador, and you start Metaverse, right? So how?
Um, it, Metaverse, actually, it was a very emerging idea. So uh, what happened was, by 2017, like there was this Decentraland that came out, and I
Mhm.
was so interested in Decentraland because I I definitely believe representation is key. Like
Mhm.
any political system, any system, I think representation is where all the problem is, right? So um, when we take politics, when I mean, like electoral politics, or something like crypto, and
Mhm.
then we look at something like virtual worlds, and
Mhm.
then imagine if every piece of land is owned by one group of people, right?
Mhm.
So when I looked at that, I felt like, like that, like, okay, as a hedge, if the virtual world become interesting,
Mhm.
I think I should have a piece of it, because
Mhm.
then we'd be pushed out of it again, right? So that's how I started being part of crypto, right? Like making sure that there is some space, so that when people get all this exposure, because every culture don't get the same kind of exposure to
Yeah,
crypto at the
that's very
same time,
true. It's very true.
right? So it takes 2-3 years for a different culture, and 2-3 more years for a different language
Right.
to get information even today.
Right.
So if there is this gap, and I was like, okay, who am I? I'm going to fill this gap for at least a few people, because I
Right.
cannot change the whole world, right? But if there is a better system, definitely I would agree to that, and want to evolve to that, etc. But at that point, I was like, okay, let's buy some land, and land has been historically, the biggest, even today, right? Like it's the
Yeah.
biggest
Even today. Even
uh,
today.
point of politics, right?
Right.
And land is so interesting, because we can see that, like 5 generations, 6 generations, 7 generations ago, people who are landowners, and people who are not. And
Right.
definitely that's not an Indian problem alone, right? Like US has that problem too.
Absolutely.
And that's the abstract part, which I got me interested in virtual worlds, right? As
Mm.
a way to think about it as a representation, right? And that's when I started buying virtual land, and that went on for a year. And
Mhm.
that's the metaverse did not exist back then.
Mhm.
By 2020, when the pandemic happened,
Mhm.
we were still working on, like me, Tubadur, um, V, who's from Wall Street, Lendroid, right? Like we were all working on the same idea for a
Hmm.
while, and then this NFT thing starts blowing up. So
Right.
like this is pre-Beeple, right? Like it's a mini blow up, right?
Right.
And tell my whole team, I'm like, okay, guys have to be avatars, and you have to check out these worlds. And then they all get a little excited, and then they try it out. And Tubador was one person who like really found his place there.
Hmm.
So I told him about CryptoArt, but in 3 months he was the voice of the metaverse, right? Like he became the journalist there. So
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
and
There's journalism background coming into play.
yeah, definitely. So I asked him what do you want to do, and he said, I want to tell stories. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting. So then I thought, okay, I'm collecting NFTs, you are collecting stories. I think they are the same.
Hmm.
So let's start working together.
Hmm.
And because I could fund this, I told him, I would fund, and then with your eyes you could buy these NFTs, and with this connection, so that we are able to support the ecosystem as it develops, right? And
Hmm.
then there is this selfishness for me. A lot of people think um, there is a different kind of selfishness for me when it comes to NFTs. But my selfishness is that if NFTs are successful, then the barrier to entry for you to earn $500 from anywhere in the world is so reduced,
Hmm.
right? And that's awesome. Like that's like
Yeah.
$500 from India or $500 from Thailand.
It's
It's
a
a
big
lot of
deal.
money.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's where this like I would have been so back in 2020, right? Even though it's just a year ago, it feels like a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so excited to push this industry, like to the borders, and push it a little beyond, and see if we can hold it, like if we can take it. And I think NFT has been like that. There's an industry which has been inviting of a lot of people from around the world,
Hmm.
and a lot of people have made a little bit of money, right?
Hmm.
So that is definitely very exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. I remember, I'm sure you remember this too. Like the early days of crypto was very collaborative and everyone was just so excited to be a part of it, right? And a part of
Yeah.
something potentially big. We didn't like, I would tell my friends who weren't really involved in crypto about crypto, and they would look at me like I was trying to sell them like Amway or something, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it was a little weird when I spoke with outside people, but within the community, it was extremely collaborative and everyone was very excited. And we lost a little bit of that. It's kind of clumped into like clicks now, but
Yeah.
but the NFT
That-
world is like that. It's very collaborative, and I find it very it's exciting
mm-hmm.
and invigorating.
I think every industry has that early, like the naive and the
Mm.
childlike
Yeah,
period, right? Like
right,
honeymoon period. So I think crypto went through that, and once a lot of money is involved, you want to kind of filter people away, and push people away. Yeah,
right.
definitely that's something uh, I really hate, because I I I I definitely don't want to work with wrong or bad actors, or
Sure,
like let them grow. But like people judge. Like
right,
people are like, okay, I don't want to work with you. I'm like, why?
right,
Right? And
right.
that's the problem I think we all face from Asia, because we fall under that judgment very very easily, right? And
Mhm.
NFTs, as you said, it's quite open right now, but if like the more it has the market, the
Mhm.
more it becomes judgmental. The
Mhm.
lesser, everyone is struggling, everyone is like helping each
Mhm.
other. So it's
Right.
I don't know how we can solve that.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, that's a weird one. That's a weird. Yeah, it seems like all art deals with that though, right? Like music is like that too. If there's underground artists, people like them, and then when they start breaking into the mainstream, people are like, I don't like them anymore. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's the thing about art. Yeah. So you've been collecting, visual art. What do you think about like music and other sorts of art mediums?
Music, I'm totally excited. But recently, I've been thinking about scarcity and what it means, um, and there are different kinds of NFTs. This is what I've come to um, conclude, because not every form of art has the same kind of audience. So if we
Mhm.
take very high art, right, like maybe something that would go to MoMA. The
Mhm.
thing is, definitely the artist would love a lot of exposure, but there's not, a lot of people who would pay little money to
Mhm.
co-own something like that, right?
Mhm.
But a
Mhm.
piece of music is something a lot of people would want to support the artist.
Right.
So in the initial quarter 1 of 2021, right? Like there were lot of sales of like one-of-one music,
Right.
NFTs, etc. Like I've also been involved in some of them. I've been trying to collect them, but I felt like for music it will be very interesting to do like like long tail
Right.
NFTs. Meaning you should just make infinite NFTs and not think about one of ones, and nothing should be priced way over a $10 $20 NFT, but like thousands of them.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you mean like, for example, the way like if you were to buy music on iTunes, for example, buy, not stream. You mean
Mm.
uh instead of having like a WAV file, just make that an NFT? Is that what you mean? So make it like unlimited so anyone can buy it,
uh,
but it's
I
NFT?
I think we can still differentiate, because distribution is still something that we don't have any control over, or we don't, like, if there's an artist, I cannot tell him like release it on OpenSea, because he's
Right.
like, who would listen to it, right?
Right.
So I think still distribution is with Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, etc. But
Mhm.
what NFT does is it finds a way for an artist to um, make some revenue without getting the same money from everyone. So it's like, if you're on iTunes or Spotify, you pay some amount of dollars, right? Like $10 a month, $8 a month, and then that
Right.
gets split into various artists, and every
Right.
artist gets a little bit. But when
Right.
you do buy an NFT, you're directly supporting that artist, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's it's not about buying something that's something you can hear the music, or something you only own, but it's a
Mhm.
memory of the time. It's a memory.
Mm.
It's almost the aura of the moment, right? Like it's it's the artist and you coming together, and that's how you have this NFT in your hand. So in 5 years, there'll not be more of these NFTs. For example,
Right.
there'll be
Right.
like thousand of it, but I think thousand is still scarce for a rock star, right?
Right.
Like 10,000 is still scarce for a mainstream, music artist. So that's, if you focus on that, the thing is,
Interesting.
the young people who are actual fans of an artist
Right.
are getting, like alienated because of all these one-of-one high
Right.
price
Right.
action. So that's where my logic is coming from, because I think if you're an artist who's a visual artist or a digital artist,
Mhm.
definitely one-of-one is interesting, because it's more like a pattern uh, artist relationship, right? But
Mhm. Mhm.
a fan artist relationship should be more, um, for a lot more people, and you
Mhm.
cannot, uh, like, artists hate to create a hierarchy of their fans and tell
Right.
them that like, he's a silver fan, you're a gold fan,
Right. 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 Right.
right?
Right.
So that's something that's definitely frowned upon. So that's why I think long tail for music is very interesting. That's not been explored a lot, but I think that will be the way we go forward.
Kind of like something like how Flow did with NBA Top Shots, I guess. Right. So
Yeah, yeah,
they're scarce, but they're not like one of ones. They're
yeah,
typically, even the most scarce ones aren't one of ones, right?
yeah,
There's still a few of them, but
yeah,
as a fan, as a huge NBA fan, like I could get uh, one of 250, and it's still quite scarce, right? And I'm a fan
yeah,
enough to in the moment, I think, right?
yeah.
something like that.
And its value would accrue over a couple of years, right? Like, so if it's a real nice moment,
Mm-hmm.
one of one is great, but one of 250 is great too, because there's so many people in the world,
Right.
and it's still quite scarce. 2 years, 3 years from now, how would we be talking about something? It'll be like vinyl, right? Like, it'll be like, yeah, I collected all five, I collected all three, something like that, where it's you create your personal expression through it. It's when you have your friends, you're like, yeah, so I have this, I have this, I have this, and I have this NFT from 2018 to 2019, and that's the kind of life we also want to have, right? Like, where why are we buying NFTs? Because we want to create art, we want to curate and express ourselves in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fascinating. I really find that interesting. So if I could talk really quick about, so you bought the $69 million Beeple, this everyday's piece. Where is it? How are you displaying it? Like, what I kind of expected it to be behind you on a screen or something, but or on a necklace or something like that. But where can I see it?
Yeah,
If we want to take a look at it now, like, where is it?
I can do like whatever you say. I can do all of that. I've still not done it, and I'm just finding my persona, I guess. So,
Yeah, I guess.
but 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 after people, I think I've been taking some time just to, because this was like a storm that came, towards me. Such a like a
Mm-hmm.
positive storm, and it's been
Mm-hmm.
like like so many conversations with artists and all kind of artists, right? Like abstract,
Right,
contemporary, traditional artists,
right.
and also music artists, or someone who's emerging, someone who's from India. All these conversations, made me think, okay, I should really like take some time to make sure that I think, I reflect this moment, because it's such
Mm.
a responsible position also, right? Like, I never thought this would go this far. Meaning,
Right.
like, I really, at that moment, I was thinking I would be an activist, an NFT activist, right? Like, just making sure NFT as an industry can be successful. So after people, but like, a lot of my focus has been on talking to people, understanding what art is, and like understanding etymology, history of art, etc. So it's been like I'm back to school. So
Mm.
so I'm taking my time to understand how I should expose it, how I should display it, etc. So it will be out there. I think by September, October, there'll be ways to uh, enjoy it, and I think it'll make an impact in the world also. But yeah, this is that period where you know
Right.
everything is a little behind the scenes.
Right. So I run a clubhouse room for artists. It's called Artists Helping Artists. And we talk about NFTs and all sorts of stuff. But so whenever I ask, like, what got you involved in NFTs or how did you hear about it? 90% of the time it's from that purchase of the $69 million people. And
Mhm.
that really woke up a lot of people. I would say for better, not for worse at all,
Mhm.
because it got people involved. It got them. And I mean, many of these artists are making money now, so it's life changing, right? And some artists have only done agency work and have been beaten down and yelled at, and this is wrong all of their lives, and to be told now, in a collaborative sort of like cohort of artists, like, oh wow, I like your art, or it's cool, or by having collectors collect their art, it
Yeah,
really empowers artists, and I've seen it firsthand. So I think it's a great thing, even if it was just activism. I think it was fantastic.
definitely. No, I can. The thing is, activism it was not in my head, right? Like, it's like just an interpretation of how I could see, because uh, like in a lot of way, I also feel like I just lived in the moment. I had
Yeah.
uh, no thought there. So I think it's all interpretation. But
How?
you got to a very interesting part. I think at some point, I don't know if you have this question in mind asking me. Collectives are very interesting in the space, right? and we can talk about that. But I
Let's
will
do
let
it.
you
Yeah.
ask the question in your mind.
Yeah, no. Go on about collectors. Yeah, I want to
Okay.
hear.
Uh, so about so when I started in the NFT space, and what was most impressive to me was collectives, artists coming together, forming a group,
Yeah,
and existing, say, on Discord or something, but supporting each other, right?
yeah,
Like, and helping each other, teaching each other, because one person cannot teach everyone,
right.
and 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 you can only learn from your friend,
Mm,
right? Like, this is about everything. So, like, until you have a friend, you will not trust that information anyways.
mhm,
So a collective is a great place to be if you want to just get started, because they will teach you all the ancillary things, right? Like things that are around something. So I used to really appreciate what uh, I still am a huge fan of Oka, which is like Women of Crypto Art. They're a
mhm.
collective of 1,000 women, right? And they're
Wow.
a group, and once in a while they put out a piece of art as Oka, and
Mhm,
usually it'll be new people who join the group, and a mixture of them, and someone who's the elders of the group. So
mhm,
that way, they get a jump start into the
mhm,
world. They get to be part of conversations, etc. So I think if there are more collectives from different parts of the world, that'll be really
mhm,
exciting, because that's one way to crack the system where,
mhm,
if you want to, if you already have some uh, clout or exposure, it's a great way to share it with other people, right?
mhm,
By being a collective. So it's been going on. There's been Oka, and there's been a few other collectives which, which have people have come together, and they just spend some time and not a lot of money, but
mhm,
some time on understanding crypto, and making some preliminary pieces of art, and maybe the collective would also bear the gas fee, etc., so that
mhm,
they can get their stuff out. And then it's about individuals, right? Like, you could get your own exposure, take your own path, and stuff like that.
mhm.
So yeah, I just wanted to mention the idea of collectives has become very interesting here.
Yeah, interesting and very important actually. I mean, crypto is so difficult, right? So onboarding people to crypto and then from there having them understand NFTs and the NFT world and how to find collectors and that sort of thing.
Mm,
It's very helpful to have that information out there. We had a guy in our clubhouse room. He was from Rwanda and
mm,
very very interesting guy and incredible art. And not many people have heard of him, right? And he came into our clubhouse room just seeking information, like how do I get Ethereum, right? He's like, I can't get it here. So finally, someone sent him a little bit of Ethereum so he can mint his art. He minted his art, boom, it got sold. So he had more Ethereum. He's like he's mining Ethereum with his art, right? And he has more
yeah,
Ethereum. And then some other guy came in the room from Rwanda, and he's like, let me help you out. So the next time they came in the room, they're best buddies, right? And it just
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
you can see it snowballing in real time and it's
yeah, yeah,
exciting.
yeah,
It's really cool. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm,
Wow,
I'm very excited for the industry.
that's quite a powerful story, right? Like, that's definitely, because you're like, NFTs are reducing the amount of trust you need to put on someone else in order to buy something,
Yeah,
right? Like, usually it'll be like Rwanda or Africa or India. It'll be like, okay, maybe there's some ill intent in, like, tied with this. But right now you just like the image.
right,
You just like the work,
right,
and you don't have to go beyond. And you can be pseudonymous, right? Like,
right, right,
you, so that's even more powerful, because it totally removes that angle of judgment.
right. Yeah, I don't. I mean, actually, yeah, I've never seen the guy's face. I've only seen his art. So, but of course, it doesn't matter, right? But in some sense, it might be helpful. Like you've gone pseudonymous many times, but I think actually it's better that people see your face and see who you are because you're unique, and I think you represent a lot of people who don't look like us, who can, think, oh, I can become like that guy, or I can help people out like that guy. So I think it's good that you're coming out speaking this right now and not Metakovan.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
I just think the veil of ignorance is a great thing. We cannot change everyone in the world, right? So
Right.
it's like pseudonymity gives a veil of ignorance to everyone for a second, and
Right.
and then they just look at your work, and then you open it.
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
like, oh shit! I,
You're like, wow, this
I
guy's
if
wow.
I yeah, if I knew this was you, maybe I would have looked at it differently.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So have you bought more art since the Everyday's piece?
Mm, I think my team has been so Tubador has been
Yeah.
Veritas who joined Metaverse just during the people. He's doing it. We are buying art in a way that we can support artists and support the industry.
Mhm.
But definitely, I've changed a lot, right? Like I've changed a lot in how I'm perceiving art itself Mm. and thinking about art history in general, right? Like understanding uh, how art has made an impact in this world,
Mhm.
and to understand that how I can use my platform properly. So
Mm.
that process has really, slowed me down, which I kind of like it. I'm like, okay, usually I'm like, so curious and I jump into stuff, but I feel like
Right.
I've slowed down a little bit now.
Okay, interesting. How do you feel about, like, I mean, in the past, we've had art patrons, and patronage was a very big part of art and commissioning art and so on and so forth. How do you feel about that now? Are you a patron, or are you thinking about commissioning artists, or what?
So definitely, I'm more leaning towards uh, the patron side and commissioning of stuff.
Mhm.
The hard part is, like when you remove market or the idea of the market on the other side, then you have to fit and some other criteria of of whether you want to work with someone or not, and that's really painful, right? Like market is a very easy reason for us to not work with someone.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, why do I don't want to work with you? I'm like, oh yeah, it will not sell. It's like, a neutral can
Mhm.
apply to everyone kind of an answer. But
Mhm.
if you remove that and be like, do you want to support me? And I think, maybe I don't like the piece of art or like their philosophy or something. But then it's very hard to say no because you have to tell them why, right? So being a patron in this new world is not easy because
Right.
maybe for the context of a king is very different, right? Because they
Right.
don't have to give a reason, and
Right.
they can be ideological all they want, right? Like only drop Jesus, right?
Right.
And
Right.
people will
Right.
be like, sure,
Sure,
if
I'd
you
love
say so, that is art. If you say so, that is art, right? So that was history. But today, I have a feeling that like patronage is definitely something that's very interesting and important.
to.
But it's more of consensus. So even though I feel like a patron, and I'm also commissioning. Right now, I'm commissioning quite a bunch of uh, productions right now. Right, like
Okay.
none of them are out yet, but that's where I progressed next after people. Right, like I've been
Interesting.
working with artists because the one reason why commissioning is interesting is because definitely I can buy a piece of NFT, but artists are also interested in learning about what NFT is, crypto is, etc.
Mhm.
So they would want, sessions, and they would want not to understand what climate change has to do with crypto,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
whether crypto is really bad for the environment. And they need someone who they can trust, who can give them an answer. So the
Right.
problem is all those things are not easy in our industry,
Right.
right? So
Right.
right now, because my bandwidth is also not, like I have a limited bandwidth. So I've been working with a few artists, right? Like teaching them crypto, teaching them NFTs, but also like they are teaching me art, right? Like they are teaching me how to, perceive stuff. And so this commissioning is very interesting. And I think for a while, and I'm going to keep commissioning, and I'm going to figure out how to scale it. But
Right.
it's definitely not the same as, like patterns of the
Right.
of the 1200. You
Right.
cannot be. It's not easy to be Medici today.
Right. Right. It's not. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, there's platforms out there working on it, but you're right. It's not easy to scale that sort of thing. Um, wow, it's fantastic. We have a question that came in from Twitter actually, and they asked the experiential layer. Do you know what they mean by that? There, I guess you mentioned something about the experiential layer and how you're trying to do something along those lines. Why don't you
Sure, sure, sure.
elaborate on that?
So, mm, so if we think about, traditional art on, I mean, canvas based art, usually it's a physical piece that's in a museum, right? So how do I how do I enjoy Mona Lisa? So the process starts from my home, right? I have
Hmm.
to book tickets online. I have to get it. I have to make sure that it's not raining today, or I dress appropriately. So everything, every effort, needed to get to the Louvre and
Hmm.
then stand outside the museum with, a bunch of people, and then slowly go inside and then look at Mona Lisa, like peeping over other people's shoulder, and be one of them, right?
Right.
And we, and you look at Mona Lisa, and you look at other people, and you see them enjoying it, and you're
Right.
wondering, okay, wow, like I'm not able to see it, but I think there is something interesting,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because this guy is so amazed by it, right? And then you come out, you buy a $3 poster of Mona Lisa, and
Right.
then you go back to your home, and paste it, like put it somewhere, and then every day you look at it, you get reminded of this whole experience and
Right.
the guy who was looking at Mona Lisa, right? So
Right.
that unique layer, I feel like it's the experiential layer.
Mm.
Museums do that to us. It's not just a Mona Lisa, but it's kind of a human experience, right? And the inputs, or cognition we get during that process is I think something we all enjoy, and we cannot replicate it very easily. It has a lot of randomness of the physical world, right? So
Hmm.
when we think about NFTs, how do you experience an NFT? So it's like, yeah, on your face, like it's here,
Right.
right?
Right.
So the whole idea of having that uh, bit of uh, effort,
Right.
like, or making it a little difficult,
Right.
where you kind of remember the whole journey, not just uh, a piece of art. I think that's kind of the experiential layer we've been talking about for a while, where it's a whole thing that you remember. You're like, okay, this is how I logged into my computer, right? Like, and that's how I went to this URL, and it made me wait for 3 minutes, and all those things could just happen on a slow internet day. But you have to make it such a way that the whole thing is exciting. So virtual worlds are like that. Like
Mm.
virtual worlds, if you look at something like B20, the monument we built,
Hmm.
what it tells the world is that you can definitely go on YouTube, and search for B20 museum,
Hmm.
and you can watch a YouTube video, and people, like, they would have cinematographed the whole museum, like from different angles. But when you look at that, you're looking at the metaverse in 2D,
Hmm.
but that you could be there.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And so if you try to go there, it's like going to a museum. You have to have a decent computer.
Interesting.
You need to know how to log in. It's not
Right.
everyone does not do that.
Right.
Very few people would
Right.
do that, right?
Right. Right.
And And I think that's where it gets more exciting, because a few people who went there might find some Easter eggs,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's the
I
kind
think
of
that's what you mean.
experience.
Yeah, I think I see what you mean. It's a few months ago I was flying around crypto voxels, one of the metaverses, the very popular metaverses for NFTs and galleries right now. And I was flying around and I came across a very interesting, I don't know if it was a house or a gallery or what, but I landed and I looked around and I was really into the art. So I'm looking around, I went on every floor, and then I turned around and somebody was there looking at me.
Yeah.
And he had like an outfit on. So I think it was his house. And it was very awkward. It felt awkward. And he looked at me and I looked at him. And then I said hi, like nice art. And then I flew away. And then as I flew away, I looked down and he was staring at me like through the window. So like that, I'll never forget it. I know where the parcel is and I go back there from time to time looking for the guy. But it was a very cool, it's very unique, serendipitous experience that it's hard to replicate. So I think I understand what you mean.
Yeah, definitely. I think that experience itself is going to evolve, right? Like, so this is one kind and one almost like a childlike world, crypto
Yeah.
voxels,
Right.
and that's the charm of it. That's the charm of it. But if you go for some other world tomorrow, maybe it's so complicated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's a different kind of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that openness of, I think artists should be creating worlds also, right? Like right now, artists are thinking, how do I do something on a digital canvas?
Mm-hmm.
But the opportunity is so open. An artist can work with a tech team and then design their own virtual world.
Right.
How do you want the world to represent you?
Right.
Right.
Wow.
That's the point of a virtual world, because that's how I started talking about it. Right.
Right.
So like that's what gets me excited now. So when I talk to someone here and they'll be like, did you just sell land on a piece of virtual world? Did you not just create the old world again?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, I think we should wrap it up. It was great speaking with you. You have a lot of very interesting insight, and I look forward to seeing what's next from Metakovan.
Yeah, there are going to be a few things. I don't like, even though I cannot talk about them right now. Definitely, there are very interesting things that are going to come out in the next say 3-4 months from Metaverse and me also. And yeah, like I've not like there is nothing that's changed. I've been so excited about NFTs since like 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and even now I'm like a child. Like every day, it's like, wow, how did they make that NFT? Right?
Yeah.
So so
That's
exciting that we are living in that world. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So how can people find you?
The best way is like it's I've been quite held up in terms of my scheduling and stuff, but the best way would be through Metapurse. Metapurse.fund is our website. Metapurser is our newsletter, and Tubadur, who we spoke about, right? Like he's the best person to talk to, in order to try to collaborate or work with us.
Mm-hmm.
We're definitely focused on things that we want to see in 2 years, 3 years,
Right.
and collab. Like we are definitely open to collaborations, especially from a decolonial lens.
Mm.
So that's something we think about a lot. And yeah, like Tubadur would be the best person. I think his DMs on Twitter are also open.
Great.
I usually try to I've become the professor, right? Like professor of crypto. Like I have to teach. To spend 3 hours with each person, telling like crypto basics. So
Right.
my scheduling is accordingly made. So I think I've found my place. Tubadur has found his place. So best way is to reach out to Tubadur.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks. Great having you. Great speaking with you. And have a good one. Stay safe.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Why?
Right.